Back yet again, still in my same corner. Character sketch of Grace Gigi Greenleaf from Owns Drama Greenleaf. Okay, first let's start off by saying, like many of the other characters in this show, I'm not familiar with the actor who plays Grace, or at least I wasn't, before the show started. Never heard of her, never seen her in anything before. The actress's name is Merle Dandridge, and she's a Broadway baby, and that's mostly why I've never heard of her, because I've yet to see a Broadway show. Hopefully I will be rectifying that in September and going to see The Color Purple on Broadway. So that's my plan anyway. But Grace Greenleaf is #1 on the call sheet, Miss Merle Dandridge, so congratulations to that. But being #1 on the call sheet means that the show pretty much revolves around her, and she's centered in everything in every episode, which is good for me, because after the pilot I became a die-hard fan instantly, so I want as much screen time of Merle Dandridge as I can get. And the character, so not only have I fallen in love with the actress and her work, I mean, I'm going back and looking at Broadway clips and all this, that, and the other, but and other TV shows that she guested on or had supporting roles on. And the character, though, Grace, I'm enamored by the character, because I mean, you have to think of how bad things have to be for you to pretty much cut yourself off from your entire family and alienate your family for 20 years. It had to be very bad to make you do that. And the very bad thing, of course, was that her sister was raped and confided in her that her Uncle Devil, Uncle Mac, raped her. And when Grace went to her parents, Bishop and Lady May, not to say that they didn't believe her, but they went to Faith, and Faith said, I lied. It didn't happen. And so nothing was ever done to Uncle Devil, and he's still, sitting at the dinner table and sitting in the pulpit of the church and everything else. And Grace, that didn't sit well with her. And I don't know if I'm so enamored by the character because I see myself in her, which could be it, because as I've said in other videos, that generational curse of incest and family rape is something that has been a part of my family, unfortunately. And I thank God every day that I was spared. But being one of very few who are not affected by that in my family, I am probably one of the most outspoken people about it, because I honestly believe, and it's common sense, so I know I'm right, that what goes on in this house and keeping family secrets is what allows these things to continue. If nobody knows who the threat is, or if very few people know and nobody talks about it and everything is hush-hush, then that allows the predator to continue to prey on the innocent and unsuspecting, which is how these generational curses happen. It doesn't have to be a generational thing. It could happen one time and something can be done about it and it can be stopped. But when it's not, and whether that's the victim recanting or the adults not believing the child, or just not caring and being selfish and saying, well, dealing with this is going to inconvenience me, so I won't, whatever it is, when it's not dealt with, when these devils are not brought to the light and not prosecuted, they are being enabled to continue to do what they do. And it's not something simple. These things have lasting effects. And then you have children who grow up to be predators. You have children who grow up to be drug addicts and prostitutes, and they just try to numb themselves in any way they can so they don't feel that hurt that nobody did anything about. And I think that thing really disillusioned Grace where her family was concerned, because they didn't do anything. She went to them and she told them she believed faith, and she went to them and nothing was done. And she just couldn't take it. She couldn't stand to be around him, and she was very upset probably with her parents for not doing anything. And she leaves home and she doesn't come back for 20 years. When she comes back, she has a teenage daughter and a booming career, because apparently she's auditioned for 2020 and going to be a journalist there, and then in the end she ends up not doing that and moving back to Memphis and actually relocating there to really just bring that curtain down on Uncle Devil and expose him for the monster that he is. But we know that there are some different things about Grace. So she's successful. She doesn't have to come home for family money or anything like that. She's successful in her own right. And she is definitely still carrying a torch for Noah. And as I've said so many times, that insecure Isabel is just ushering her right on in by being insecure. And her and her mother have like the most tumultuous relationship that you could imagine, and you don't know why yet. So season 1, episodes 1 through 8, we have yet to find out why Lady May seems to detest her oldest daughter, but that is my interpretation of what I see on the screen. It's like she just doesn't like her. She's just automatically put off when Grace is mentioned or in the room. For what? I don't know. But Grace is determined to bring to the light what Uncle Mac did, and initially that's by any means necessary. When she finds out that her parents, who are innocent in this thing, are going to be affected negatively, as well as the church, she's not so sure she wants to push it. And Uncle Mac comes in and he gives her that "you don't know and you don't know what you don't know" speech. And she thinks now that she has it figured out, because she's found out that Uncle Mac has used church funds through Lady May's scholarship in order to pay these people off. And it's hush money, so all of his dirt will unravel the church. I don't think that's it. That might be part of it, but I think that you don't know and you don't know what you don't know is a lot deeper than that. And I think once we find out what it is that Uncle Mac knows that Grace doesn't know, we're gonna find out a whole lot of stuff. Some bricks is gonna fall into place once that happens. So I think that, I think she's a good mother, and I think her and Sophia had a good relationship living in Arizona. And I think that coming back to Memphis and back to Calvary and back to her family is kind of, making that different, because as I said in Sophia's character sketch, she's dealing with, being uprooted and moved and, being around her family and at new school and this, that, and the other. And I'm sure because her mother's a working journalist, she was not at home all the time or whatever, but it's like she's really into the church, and she's into her Sisters of Tamar group, and she's into bringing down Uncle Mac. And it seems like even though Sophia's a priority, she's not the center of attention anymore. And that could be weighing a little on Sophia, and that could be also a reason why she's hanging out with Zora and smoking weed and sniffing Ritalin pills. Not to mention setting the church dumpster on fire with the serious kid. But I just think that because, like I said, she drives the show and she's so real. Again, these characters are so multifaceted that you can believe them. That she's a mother and she's a daughter and she's a sister, and she tries to be there for everyone. And that is the thing that really gets me, because you can't help but love Gigi. You can't. And she tries to be there for everyone, and it's like everyone comes for her but her dad and her daughter and Noah. Everyone else is, oh my God, Gigi's home, and she, for some reason, is a threat to them. And because she's a threat to them, they come at her every chance that they get to try to knock her down verbally, or I'm like, wow, I don't get it. What did she do? Or is she just really that powerful? And I think that Lady May was worried when it came up to Gigi preaching, because even though Gigi has become a Christmas Easter Christian in Arizona, that's not who she always was. And the reason behind that could be that she's disillusioned with the faith, because, you know, my bishop father and his first lady didn't do anything about my sister being raped by my uncle, who's still sitting in the pulpit. You know, that makes you look at it funny. It makes you look at the situation funny. And then when you research and you learn some other stuff, you don't accept everything at face value anymore. Once you start thinking for yourself and looking into situations, you have a different outcome. You have a different outlook on things. And I think once she moved away and got away from her family and away from what was traditionally her life and her life in the church, and she started looking at things differently. She started viewing things differently. But I think that Lady May knows that regardless of what she believes, when she gets in that pulpit, the Holy Spirit gonna lead her and she gonna tell the truth. And all of the Greenleaf truth ain't pretty, and Lady May don't want that out there. She wants to keep that image that she has created intact, whether it's honestly who they are or not, and my vote is for not. She wants to keep that intact, and I think that's why she came to Gigi and gave her the little speech about not using the pulpit as a switch to punish Lady May and Bishop, because she knows if she gets up there and tell the truth, they're gonna look bad. And so I applaud Gigi for changing her sermon that morning, because she was like, you know what, it don't matter how you look, it don't matter how you feel, the Holy Spirit's leading me this way. I'm looking at this woman sitting here with a black eye next to the man who gave her the black eye, and her daughters are seeing this, and now they're thinking that this is normal, this is how a man loves a woman. And Stacy's point of stand was, I didn't have a father. I don't know what it's like to have a good father. Once my father was gone, my stepfather abused me, so I want my daughters to have their father. Well, he's not a good father, Stacy. He didn't beat you upside your head. So, okay, when he get tired of beating you, he gonna start beating them. And then they're gonna leave, and they're gonna find men who beat them. So you're not helping them at all. I want you to check that. Keep going to that meeting here, because maybe you're gonna get that at the Sisters of Tamar meeting. Maybe you will get that enlightenment and get woke on that subject. But I think that, just like I said, that Sophia is the catalyst for all the questions that we have about Christianity and religion in general. I think Faith was, I don't even know what you would call it. I think that, you know, she put it into perspective that there are demons that can drive you away even if you know the truth. And I think that what Grace is going to do is going to tie all that in, because Grace is going to show us that, first of all, she's human, but she honestly has a heart for God, and the truth ain't always pretty, but it's the truth and it has to be told. Okay, so then, like I said, I believe that, you know, Grace is a genuine person and she's compassionate. So when she found out that her father had never gotten into contact with David Nelson, even though he had been trying to speak with someone from Calvary for like a month and a half, she contacted him, and then she went over and she met with him. And I thought that, you know, that's what pastors are supposed to do. You know, if you're talking about outreach and you're talking about you doing this, that, and the other, then you need to be doing it, you know, and turning your back on a parishioner because they're in a situation that is not ideal, that's not Christian at all. So I was disappointed when Bishop was talking about, you know, his team practice discernment with what to bring to him and what not to bring to him. And I personally feel like, even if you're going to say that you're not going to be involved with it, or it's not something that you want the church to be associated with, which, you know, sometimes is necessary, although I don't agree with this being one of those times, but sometimes that is necessary. You don't just ignore them and wait for them to go away. So I thought that Pastor Gigi going over to meet with David was the Christian thing to do. And I also thought that when he came to church to meet with the bishop, I agree with him that, you know, you should let your yes be yes and your no's be no's. But she never said that she wouldn't meet with him. You told her not to do anything. She never said, okay, you know, I'm not going to talk to him. So it wasn't as if she went back on what she said, because she never said she wouldn't talk to him. And then when he was in the sanctuary and she went in and sat with him and talked, and it was all, you know, innocent. It wasn't like no hooking up and nothing like that. It was innocent. But when Noah, did he see you? When Noah came in to look for her and seen her sitting there, his face definitely cracked. He felt some type of way just seeing her sitting with another man. And I was like, see, that's another clue that he not really ready to get married. If you ain't seen this woman and been with this woman in 20 years and she come back home, and we don't know at this point how much time has elapsed, because we do know that there is a time lapse between episodes, we just don't know how much. But you know, after all these years, and then she comes back and, you know, she's there every day now, and you feel some type of way from seeing her sit next to another dude, then you are definitely not ready to marry insecure Isabel. You are not. So he goes on about his business and was like, you know, whatever, get with her later or whatever. And then on the episode where they get behind the blue or whatever it was that they done, it's a little publicity stunt for the city. And I can't remember how he put it, but I think he asked Gigi if David was her research assistant or something like that. And she said, yeah. And his face was tore up again, and he was like, you know, it's none of my business. You're right, because you got insecure Isabel over here, so stop catching feelings about her being in the company of another man. And because I kind of, you know, inferred that because Noah was feeling some type of way about seeing Gigi with David and knowing that Gigi was working with David, that there was going to be a Gigi and David. Well, that didn't happen, because Noah and Gigi are still working closely together. And when she finds out how Uncle Mac is paying these women off for their silence after violating them, she goes to tell him, and I guess kind of just to unload, you know, and say, what should I do, because now this is going to cause so many problems with my family and with the church, and I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. So when looks like I'm running out of time. Hold up, what is going on here? Hold up. Apparently I'm running out of recording time. I don't know how that's happening, because it's supposed to be unlimited, but I'm gonna give you a part 2 on Gigi and clean this up in a second.